Good morning. Good morning, Mel. How are
Good
you?
morning.
This
Good.
is good. Good to hear that. This is Pushing Boundaries, a podcast about pioneering research, breakthrough discoveries, and unconventional ideas. I'm your host, Dr. Thomas R. Verney. My guest today is Dr. Mel Borins, a family physician in private practice and on the staff at St. Joseph's Health Center in Toronto, Canada. He's a fellow of the College of Family Physicians of Canada and associate professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the University of Toronto. For over 2 decades, he has been active and instrumental in training physicians in complementary and alternative medicine, counseling and psychotherapy, stress management, and communications. Dr. Mel Borins is the author of I'm sorry about this. What was I saying? He's the author of Go Away Just for the Health of It, An Apple a Day, a Holistic Health Primer, and A Doctor's Guide to Alternative Medicine. He has written extensively on stress management, psychotherapy, acupuncture, traditional healing, herbs, and complementary medicine. Dr. Borins received the Theratree Award. Have I got that right, Mel?
That's right. Yeah.
Theratree Award from the Medical Psychotherapy Association for his outstanding contribution to the education of physicians in the field of psychotherapy. I'm almost coming to the end of my introduction now. He also received an award for excellence in continuing education from the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the University of Toronto in recognition of his contributions to their professional development program. That was quite a lengthy introduction, but I think necessary to pay homage to all the things that you have achieved in your life. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, it's really a pleasure. Perhaps we can start by talking about your interest in acupuncture, traditional healing, herbs, and complementary medicine. How did it all start, and what does it involve? What is complementary medicine, and how did you get into it?
Well, complementary medicine is really alternative medicine, medicine that's not mainstream in terms of medical training.
Right.
And I when I went through medical school, I did my elective in hypnosis. So it was my first exposure to something different. And then when I was in medical school, I attended a weekend workshop in Gestalt therapy given by George Rosner after seeing many videos of watching Fritz Perls do psychotherapy on the TV. And so I got training in hypnosis, and then I continued my training in hypnosis. And then with Gestalt therapy, I began being involved in a personal Gestalt work on myself, but also in a training group that met once a week for 3 hours for about 6 years. And so this started the whole interest in psychotherapy and counseling and the impact that the emotions and the mind have on the physical body. After my internship and completing my medical training, my wife Bonnie and I took off for a round the world trip for about 9.5 months. And we traveled to all kinds of different countries around the world. And I was exposed to different kinds of healing, like Ayurvedic healing, Unani medicine, Siddha medicine, and local healers, spiritual healers, bone setters, herbalists. And I started to be aware that there were other approaches as, in addition to modern medicine. I became interested. And when I got back to Toronto, I did some training in acupuncture. And I even took some courses in manipulation, spinal manipulation from a doctor from England. I've forgotten his name. But so that's how I start to take on this. And then I met a chiropractor, and he didn't have horns or, he wasn't scary, Don Vigiani. And him and I started the Toronto Holistic Health Association. And every month we'd meet at someone's home, and we'd bring together different healers, nurses, dentists, doctors, chiropractors, and each month they have a presentation by one of us teaching us another strategy or another way of looking at things. So, and then myself and Dr. Ravi Devkin started the Canadian Holistic Medical Association way back long time ago. And that again was bringing together physicians who are interested in alternatives. And that's how all this whole thing started, was, me taking courses and doing training. And then I was even lucky enough to be teaching acupuncture and homeopathy to second-year medical students for a number of years, giving lectures in that. And I think we'll come to talk about the course that I run in psychotherapy and counseling for family doctors that we've been doing for over about 20 years. So that's kind of the start of how it got started.
So I imagine, well, thank you for that. I imagine that at the beginning you would have had a lot of difficulty, a lot of prejudices, so to speak, biases to overcome at the University of Toronto to get on their staff and to actually have access to medical students.
Well, I've never experienced any negativity from my colleagues about this. And early on, I was a teaching practice, and it was a teaching practice, meaning that residents in their training would come and spend the month with me.
Yes.
And I didn't really start teaching that homeopathy and acupuncture till way on in the medical curriculum. And I've never had any kind of negativity from my colleagues about what I've done. I've been very lucky that way.
Yes, you have. You have. That's really quite amazing. I mean, I remember when I started medical school at University of Toronto, I mean, there was so much prejudice against psychiatry even. I was given the idea, but by many of the instructors, that the only thing that psychiatrists really did was to treat, quote unquote, rich ladies from Rosedale who had no worries except that their dachshunds were misbehaving, or something ridiculous like that.
That's horrible.
It is horrible. It is horrible. Yeah. So I'm glad that you did not experience, any sort of resistance against these new ideas. So in terms of your work then, what kinds of patients do you see, and what is it that you use most frequently? Which of these approaches do you find most helpful?
Well, I'm really just I'm really a family doctor, and the majority of what I do is modern medicine, what I got taught in medical school and training afterwards. So I do a couple of hours of psychotherapy each morning with some select patients in my practice. I do occasional acupuncture treatments. I occasionally, will use some alternative approaches, but the majority of what I do is really straightforward modern medicine.
Oh,
I'm always open and receptive to patients who are doing alternatives, and because of my knowledge and my interest, I know a lot about it, and I can give it. And there's some things, of course, that I might do a little differently than my colleagues, but the majority of is modern medicine.
And in terms of acupuncture, do you use actually needles, or do you use lasers?
Yeah, no, I do needles, and I only treat things that I know I'm very good at treating. So there's only a couple of conditions that I'm really expert at treating with acupuncture. And in my book, A Doctor's Guide to Alternative Medicine, there is a chapter on acupuncture.
Yes.
And and it's there's some scientific research that says that it's useful for headaches, it's useful for osteoarthritis of the knee, it's useful for tennis elbow, it's useful for neck pain, it's useful for nausea and vomiting. So there is some scientific randomly assigned double-blind controlled trials that show that acupuncture is actually better than sham or placebo in treating some of these conditions. And as I say, I do have some expertise in a couple of conditions that I do treat.
So
But it's not a big component of my practice these days. At one time, it was.
It was.
More, yeah.
So the book that you were holding up, is that A Doctor's Guide to Alternative Medicine?
That's right, A Doctor's Guide to Alternative Medicine.
And how can people obtain that if they want to purchase it?
It's purchasable through bookstores and online.
Great.
It was published by Lyons Press, which is an imprint of Roman and Littlefield, and it's available all over guide. And it is the comprehensive. I was asked by a medical journal to write every month an article about the scientific support for complementary medicine.
Yes.
So every month I would look into the literature, look at randomly assigned double-blind controlled trials, and write an article about different topics that there is some research that shows that acupuncture, chiropractic, some herbal therapies, some mindfulness based stress reduction, some evidence that says that some of these alternative approaches actually have scientific validation and they're useful. So once a month I wrote an article, and so basically I took a collection of all the monthly articles and put them together in the book.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do that. So, I read just last week in the New York Times, there was this big article. I have it here in front of me. It says, "Going beyond yoga and massage, wellness resorts adopting high-tech treatments since the end of the pandemic." What are your thoughts about that kind of a resort?
I don't know much about it, but I imagine, you see, I also wrote the book called Go Away Just for the Health of It. So the very fact that you leave town and go to a different environment and kind of leave your natural setting has some very positive influence. And if you're, when you're away, you can get some specialized treatments. I think, that's probably a good thing. I don't know much about the details of those kinds of therapies, whether they're actually useful or work or have problems. So I'm not aware to comment, but going away and focusing on your health, I think is a great idea.
So speaking of going away, I know that you have led many groups, I believe, to Bali, right?
Yes.
Why Bali, and what is the purpose of those groups?
Well, there's an organization called Doctors on Tour. And Doctors on Tour is an organization that takes doctors to faraway lands. We have some training and courses and a conference, and we tour around and visit sometimes local healers. And I've been lucky enough to lead about 13 trips through Doctors on Tour to countries around the world. I've been very lucky to lead 3 trips to Bali. And Bali is like a special place in my heart. And in my most recent book, which you may know, is called Bali, A Great Place to Visit. And when I went away with my wife after my completing my medical education, we landed in Bali, and we just were taken aback by the beauty of the country, the friendliness and welcoming spirit of the people. They have very interesting, healers, as I mentioned, bone setters, traditional healers, spiritual healers. And like every day, there's festivals or celebrations or something spiritual going on. Now, it's dramatically changed, obviously, in the last 20 years with all the tourism and building of hotels and all those things. And you could go to Bali and not see any of the things that I'm talking about. And so I was afraid to ever write about Bali because I was worried that it would attract tourists and then it would destroy the place. But I finally decided that, I wanted to write a book that talked about some of the untouched places and why go there. What's so special about the sunsets and the rice fields and the people saying hello every time you pass them, and people smiling, and you're invited into cremations and spiritual ceremonies and temple festivals. And I got invited to share all those things. And I also was lucky enough to be invited to speak at the medical school on numerous occasions over the years. But it's a special place in my heart. And so that's why I wrote this book, really to tell people that you can go to Bali and still experience some of the untouched places that are there.
So do you think that there was anything in your own background that sort of made you open to veer off the well-tread path of medicine and look at some of these alternative ways of treating people?
That's a great question. I've not thought much about that. I can't identify anything in my upbringing or that would lead me in this way. No,
were you encouraged to, to
no.
be your own?
I was encouraged to be a doctor. I had the options of a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist,
right?
or a lawyer maybe, but that's I was certainly not encouraged to do music or do writing or to do any of the creative stuff that I do, or to, for that matter, when I was in grade 3, my parents did take me down to Florida on a car trip, and it was a wonderful time, and I loved that, going away and being on holiday, and we did have a cottage, so I did go away to the country and got a chance to experience what it's like to live in, outside of the city and that kind of thing. I'm not sure that influenced me, though, in terms of any of what we've talked about. I was really touched on this trip, and I was touched by hypnosis and Gestalt therapy and some of the alternative acupuncture that I was exposed to, and I really took it to heart.
Yeah, but a lot of people get exposed to it and it leaves them unchanged. But with you, it made a difference.
Yeah.
You mentioned music a moment ago. I understand that you compose music, you play.
I do. I play the guitar. I've been playing the guitar since high school, and I've got 7 CDs that have been released.
Kidding.
Yeah. And if you go to Mel Borins Bandcamp, BANDCAMP, you'll see all the hundreds of songs that I've written. And
hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. And you'll see some of the video. Well, the videos are up on my website, but I became interested also to convert some of the songs into music videos. So I have 10 so-called inspiring music videos that are meant to make you feel very positive and put you in a positive frame of mind. And I actually did a book called Photos and Songs of a Paranoid Physician, which is a book with a CD at the end of it, which has the inspiring songs plus the poetry and the photographs from around the world. And so music has been a big part of my life. And I put out a DVD called Possibilities, the Paranoid Photo Songbook, but nobody has a DVD player. And just recently I was able to convert the DVD into a video so people could see the 10 inspiring songs. I also have written 10 funny medical songs and 3 particular songs on cancer screening, colon cancer screening and mammograms and pap tests. And some of these are also videos that you can access online.
Are they humorous, or are they sad, or?
No, they're humorous. That's right. Humorous. Humorous, funny songs meant to educate about colon cancer screening. Colon Cancer Canada has my video on their website. A pap test called Pap Rap. So I wrote a rap song about pap tests, and it apparently is on Southwestern Ontario website, the video. And the mammogram one, I don't think I have the video for that. I just have the song. But I have 10 funny medical songs about hypertension, high cholesterol, kidney stones, allergies.
Oh my goodness, so much fun.
So much fun. Yeah.
Do you play the guitar and sing?
Yeah.
Would you mind singing a song for us? Please, please.
All right. But I'll do it without the guitar.
Okay. Whatever you want. The one
I
about
have.
colon, the colon one appeals to me.
Okay. Well, I'm not. I'm not
Okay.
ready to do that, but I will sing.
Okay. Okay.
We could always. Yeah. But I have food on the table. I have a safe place for my bed. I have clothes on my back and a roof over my head. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So glad to be alive. I wake with a smile. I go to sleep with love. Every breath is sacred. Every heartbeat is a gift. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So glad to be alive. I look in the mirror and see my smiling face. I hug myself gently and feel my warm embrace. Life is so fragile, so lucky to be alive, so lucky to be alive. I can taste sweet honey, feel the touch of your soft skin. I can smell the fragile flower. I can hear the birds sing. I can laugh. I can love. See the sunset shining up above. I can laugh. I can love. So glad to be alive.
Well, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Really, that is amazing. Really, I love that. That's great. That's wonderful. Well, so you're such a multi-talented guy.
It's the first time I've sung a cappella.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Uh, if you if you could turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old person that you were, what would you tell them?
I would really tell them to be grateful
Mm-hmm.
that, terrible things are going on in the world.
Yes,
There's a lot of horrific things happening,
yes,
war and poverty and people
yes,
living on the streets and
yes.
um, so many, I would tell them that in spite of everything, just to be grateful for all the things that we possess and all the lucky things that we have, and to the self compassion, self appreciation, self acknowledgement, self is really important. That's what I would want to teach them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Are your parents still alive?
No, my parents have passed on.
How long ago?
Well, my father died when he was 62, so quite
Oh,
when I was in medical school, and my mother died. Seems like quite a few years back. She was 97 though. She
oh,
she was quite lucky.
yes,
You
yes.
know,
Did she understand what you were doing? Did she approve?
not much. No,
No,
no, not much. No.
no. Now you have been married for something like 50 years?
51 years.
51 years. 51 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Some congratulations. One of you is a saint. I don't know which one to put up as the other one, for 51 years. It takes a bit of sainthood. How did you meet your wife?
We met at summer camp. We were both counselors at a summer camp in Northern Ontario.
Yes.
And we met, and she's obviously the love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been took me a while to commit, but after 5 years of kind of going out, we got married, and we've just had the best time together.
Hmm. So the two of you have worked together?
Well, Bonnie is a dental hygienist.
Right.
She's been teaching at the University of Toronto dental faculty for, I guess, over 50 years. And she used to be instructor at George Brown College after being in private practice as a dental hygienist. She's still teaching.
She's still teaching.
Still teaching at University of Toronto,
Wonderful.
dental students.
If you could have coffee with anyone in the past, history, going back
Oh my.
as many thousand years as you like, three
Oh
people
my.
who you can choose to have coffee with, three people from history, who would you choose?
That's a crazy question.
It is.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Yeah. Give me anybody.
I would have coffee with
Oh,
Moses, Jesus, and Sigmund Freud.
okay. I wonder how they would get along. Okay. So what kind of a conversation would you like to have with Moses?
Well, he was a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and I just like to know essentially what inspired him,
Mm-hmm.
and what was it like to be a leader,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to be connected to God. And I suppose it's the same with Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
to understand his connection to God and what inspired him.
And Freud?
Well, he's considered the father of modern
Mm-hmm.
psychiatry. So
Mm-hmm.
be interested to understand a little bit about what motivated him, what inspired him, and how did he cope with all the challenges. I guess that's the conversation is, how do great people cope
Yes.
with all the challenges and still stay
Yes.
um, connected, still stay motivated, still stay positive.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't seem to have had any trouble staying positive.
Well, there are times when I can get a bit discouraged and burnt out for sure.
May I ask what sort of things make you feel tired and burnt out?
Well, being a family doctor is a
Yeah. Yeah.
challenging thing. I
Yeah.
go very early in the morning, and I sometimes come home very late at night, and the
Mm.
amount of paperwork and the amount of
Yes.
uh, dealing with computers and anything
Yes.
electronic
Yes.
is
Yeah.
really challenging.
It sure
And
is.
so those are the kinds of things where um, I sometimes can feel burnt out, and so lucky to be able to take a break and sometimes go away.
So how do you relax?
Well, I play the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I do music every Monday night, every evening, Monday evening.
Yeah.
Go into a studio and work on songs. I'm a second degree black belt in karate. So I train once a week with my sensei, and I also practice a few times a week my kata, and I do a lot. I do journaling, writing, and there's I find that if I'm journaling and writing each day, that makes a big difference. And I do know how to relax and meditate, and
Mm.
sometimes that's helpful too.
Right. Right. What's important to you in life?
Important to me is family.
Mm-hmm.
That stands out as the most important thing.
And
Connection,
yeah,
connection with people.
you have several children?
I got three amazing sons and six amazing grandchildren. Very
Mm.
lucky.
What do your sons do?
Oh, geez. I'm not sure I want to get that personal.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. So, can you think can you think of a peak experience in your life that stands out? You know, the one moment in time that you will never forget, and that just was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Well, there are a couple of times when that I've felt really at peace and at one with myself and the universe around me.
Yes.
And they happen to be mostly beach experiences. So I remember lying on a rock in the Seychelles, or lying on a rock in Mykonos, or lying on the beach in up north or on Maui. So I tend to feel very, very connected and peaceful when I'm out in nature, mainly in the sun.
Yes,
And
of course.
mainly in tropical places. It seems
Right.
that when I have to, sometimes when we meditate, we go back to a place where we feel completely relaxed and at peace. And these are the images that I search for, the ones where I'm completely at peace with the ocean and the water and the sky and the clouds and the birds singing, and kind of being part of that scene. That's where I feel most at peace, most connected.
Sounds wonderful. So I don't want to get morbid, but is that how you would spend the last day if you had only one day left to live? How would you spend it?
I spend it with my family. Yeah.
Okay. I ask all my guests this final question.
Oh no.
Get ready, here it comes. What does being human mean to you?
Being human means to connect to other human beings, to be connected through the heart, through the spirit, through love. And being human, I think, is the ability to connect and be connected to other human beings. Compassionate, warm, understanding, loving as a response.
I totally agree. Those are my sentiments exactly. Well, thank you. I mean, it has been just great getting to know you a little bit and hearing about your amazing creativity in so many different areas. Thank you for sharing all that with us, your knowledge, your insights, learning about complementary medicine. It has been a very full half hour. Let me say thank you very much. And let me just say that my guest in 2 weeks' time will be Dr. Thomas Hartung, Professor of Environmental Health and Engineering at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and Whiting School of Engineering in Baltimore. And he has done some amazing research combining the power of brain organoids into a type of biological hardware which is more efficient than supercomputers. So this is the coming thing. This is the future. Hope you can join me. And once again, Mel, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Good. Take care of yourself, and all my best to your good wife.
The same likewise.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.